I love the Ninja Turtles. I've watched the classic 80s cartoon on VHS tape. I've watched it on this DVD set that I have. Now, this DVD set here contains the first 5 or 6 episodes of the classic 80s cartoon. And this was what I had on tape as well, and I would watch these over and over and over. I had never seen anything after the first 5 episodes. I had never seen any of them. So I wasn't the biggest Turtles fan, admittedly. But what I had, this was my brother's tape, and this is what I eventually picked up on DVD. I loved it, I loved all of these episodes, and I'd never watched the entire thing, admittedly, sadly, okay? But I did watch the 2003 series, because the 2003 series was my era. That was the millennials age, right? So they would air 2003 TMNT and try to repopularize the Ninja Turtles, and it worked. It was a very fun show. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't remember everything about it, admittedly, but I remember the first season pretty well. It was a very good show, very fun show, and far more action-packed. It was made during a time period when they were trying to revive old cartoons, old classic 80s shows. They announced pretty much at the same time, at around, I think it was like 2001, 2002. They announced 2 shows at the same time. They announced Transformers Armada, which was bringing out a new cartoon series of the Transformers after Beast Wars, which was in the 90s. I never watched that. I didn't really care for that bad CG crap. But other people love Beast Wars. It's fine, whatever. But I was the Armada kid. I watched Transformers Armada. I watched Transformers Energon, Cybertron. Very fun show. Very fun shows. And, of course, there was Masters of the Universe. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Do many people remember that one? That one tends to get drowned out. I had quite a few of those Masters of the Universe action figures. The only one that I still have today is Beast Man, unfortunately. See, look at this boy. Look at how articulate he is. He's missing his hand because a child played with him heavily. His head's a little scruffed up, but look at the detail. Look at all the fur and detail on this dude. He's missing his vest because I don't have that anymore, but look at all that. That's made of different material there. This is made of different material. There's no more wires on the legs. And I love this idea that they did with the legs here, that what they could do with that goes ups and down and from side to side. That was fantastic. For back in the day with action figures, if it could do that, that was actually high quality made product. And it's got a little button in the back here. What does this button do? It moves his arms. What is that? What purpose does this serve? I don't know. You can move them yourself, but whatever. It's fantastic. I loved these things, man. And they tried to bring the Turtles back as well. When they brought back the Transformers and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, they brought back the toy lines, they brought back the shows, and said, you know what, let's do the Ninja Turtles as well. So they brought back the Ninja Turtles for the 2003 series. Unfortunately, I don't have a hard copy of that, because they just didn't do a wide release of the 2003 complete set. I picked up the 80s one, though. I have TMNT 80s complete. I just haven't seen it yet. But you know what I have seen? You know what I have seen over and over and over and over and over? This. TMNT. The first one. 1990. The movie. This was my Ninja Turtles. As much as I loved the old tapes of the first few episodes of the Ninja Turtles, which I loved, I watched and rewatched those all the time, this was my Ninja Turtles. This was my main introduction into this series. I would watch the tape and said, oh cool, these Ninja Turtles are cool, but it wasn't until I got this movie that I became a Ninja Turtles fan. I would have the t-shirts of Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael. I had t-shirts, all 4 of them, on a little t-shirt. I don't have them anymore, unfortunately. They wouldn't fit me now, They were made for a kid of the 90s. But when I finally got this and watched this over and over and over, I watched this too many times. I've watched it way too many times. The disc no longer plays. It no longer works. That's how many times I watched this as a kid, as a teenager, as an adult. I have watched and rewatched it so many times, and thankfully it's also on this set, which also comes with the second movie, the third movie, and TMNT here. We're not going to be talking about TMNT today, but we're going to be talking about these three movies. And I want to be just a little bit apologetic about the second and third movies. I think they're fantastic, and I do think that the first one is the best one. Obviously, this is the one I wore the disc out on. I loved this movie. Everything about it is so quotable. Everything about every single character in it is just perfectly grasped, perfectly made, perfectly everything. It is fantastic. Like, I can't even begin to describe how well these suits look. This is 1990. The Jim Henson Company made these suits, and they look fantastic. There are actual people in the suits, and they got actual martial artists to film the fighting scenes, and they're fantastic. The lines, the jokes, the voice actors, the everything about it is so good that I can't even look at the CG turtles and say that would be better than this. No. When you look at a live-action Turtles thing, when you look at the Michael Bay Turtles movie, it's fine, I guess. He made the Turtles CG, but there's just something about these Turtles being physically there that you can actually touch them. You can have your Casey Jones character, your April O'Neil character, physically touch the Turtles, their arms, their heads, and everything, and they're touching real material. They're touching real things. Those turtles are physically standing there, rather than a dude in a mocap suit that you have to imagine looks like the turtle that's going to be CGI'd. And I'm not knocking CG. I am often the most apologetic towards CG and say that it's actually pretty fun to watch CG movies, CG this, CG that. I don't care. It's pretty fun. If it looks good, if it's fun, then I will enjoy it. I enjoyed the Michael Bay movies, but they're not nearly as good as these. In fact, the Michael Bay movies are not even as good as Ninja Turtles 3 and TMNT 2007. I would say that. I would. Turtles 1990 is the best one of all of them by far. Every single Turtles movie that was ever made, that has ever been made from now until today, ever. It's this one. 1990 is the best Ninja Turtles movie. The story is something that I know by heart. I don't want to spend the next 30 minutes reviewing and talking about every single event in the story, because it's probably something you've probably already watched. You might even like it yourself. This is the Ghostbusters, the Back to the Future 1, the Jurassic Park, the Jaws. It is the lightning in the bottle, the perfect capturization of a story, of a movie, of an IP, of an idea. You watch it, it's the they nailed it first try. And the sequels are just trying to capture that high, and they keep failing. Unfortunately, they're still fun sequels, but they just did it perfectly with that first installation, that everything that came after it just could not live up to that hype. This is why I mentioned Back to the Future. 2 and 3 aren't as good as 1, in my opinion. Jurassic Park, none of the sequels are as good as the first one, in my opinion. But that's just how it is, Sometimes you just nail it so friggin' well. Ghostbusters. You nail it so friggin' well that it defeats the purpose of ever making a sequel. You could never live up to it. Ghostbusters 2 is basically a lot of the same things of Ghostbusters 1, because it was just so good. It was just so good that you couldn't really do a sequel. You didn't really even need one. I like Ghostbusters 2, actually. I'm a pretty big apologetic fan of that one. It was pretty funny. But yeah, it was just trying to be the first movie again. And I love the first movie, so I was very happy to see a different story. And I loved seeing Rick Moranis having a bigger role, and he got to put on the Ghostbuster suit. That was very fun to see. Just being nostalgic about all these things, it just puts a big smile on my face. And that's why I wanted to talk about the Ninja Turtles and just fanboy out about these things. The first movie is perfect, though. It needs no introduction, it needs no review, it needs no defending, it needs none of that stuff. So let's move these out of the way, and let's get into talking about TMNT 2, Secret of the Ooze. Now, the second movie brings back the Shredder. He did not die. It brings back his second in command, the bald Asian dude whose name I can never remember. They got the Foot Clan. It's got all that stuff, but Casey Jones is missing. I don't know why they couldn't get Elias Koteas back. Probably scheduling conflicts or something. I don't know, maybe. But there was a problem that with soccer moms of the day. Soccer moms. This movie is rated PG. It really is. But it had a lot of things in here that could have made this movie PG-13. It was very stretching the line. If this was made today, it would be PG-13. Made in 1990, it barely managed to scrape by on PG. But that's probably why it lived up so well. It captured the perfect combination of the 80s cartoon show and the comics. I'm not a comics guy. I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't read any of the comics. Not a single one of the Turtles comics. But I know about them. I've watched videos talking about them. I've watched videos about the artists who've worked on them, explain them, and the complexities, and how they're a lot more adult than the shows, which are far more aimed at children. And so this captures that more adult storytelling of the comics with the kid-friendly children's cartoon of the 80s. And it's a perfect blend. That's why it feels like it's a PG-13 movie, even though it's rated PG. Unfortunately, in the second movie, because of a bunch of soccer moms and a bunch of other people coming together to say, violence, swords, don't do that, it's holy, we gotta protect our kids. Hello, Miss Soccer Mom. When you were a child, Elmer Fudd was pointing a gun at a duck and shooting him in the face over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Duck season, rabbit season, fire! And I think you grew up fine. I think you were fine. I think you were. You were fine. All of your parents were fine. So what makes you think a couple swords and a couple bow staffs and size and nunchucks beating the people over the heads and knocking them out with is gonna mess people up? They didn't mess you up, did they? No! So why do you think it's gonna mess your kids up? The rolling back of the violence, Leonardo doesn't even pull out his swords in the second movie, okay? What Secret of the Ooze does well is the comedy of the first movie, but they dial up the comedy to 27. They dial it up to 11. They dial it up way up. But it's still very quotable. It's still very fun. Donnie's recast voice actor has been recast from the first movie. The same voice actor comes back for the third movie, but in the second movie it's a different person. He's still pretty funny in the very opening segment. There's a very memorable, memeable scene with him playing with a little clown blow-up thing. He's pushing it. He's like, yeah. It's very funny. Love that. The Turtles are still the Turtles. Jim Henson has come back. He's brought the suits back. They're different suits. They're different heads. The eyes are a little bit more animated. They're bigger. But, and admittedly, I do like the eyes from the first movie better than the suits from the second one. They're a little bit more animated, though, so they're fine, whatever. But they don't really use their weapons. Donnie is the only one that really gets to use his weapons, He's got a little bow staff. It's just a stick. He used to beat people with a stick. It's not that violent. It's not that violent at all. So the soccer mom said it's fine. But the size, the swords, even the nunchucks, they're just sticks with a chain! Yeah, you can't use those either. So they just use a bunch of things from their environment, like a yo-yo or some sausage links that like Mikey finds. And it's very unfortunate. I love the ninja rap scene with Vanilla Ice. I loved that scene. I love the jokes with the snapping turtle and the wolf man monsters that the Shredder makes to try to combat the turtles, but they're basically mentally babies. He just shouts, "Babies! They're babies!" It's very funny. It's very funny. This movie, the second movie, is still very funny. It's just as funny. It's got that same energy as the first movie, but it's just not as good. It needed to keep that violence factor in there, Leo never pulls out his swords. Maybe you could have went a little bit more campy with it. Being campy could be fun. Leo got to use his swords in the cartoon show, probably because the Shredder's Foot Clan soldiers were robots. And say it with me, kids, If it's a robot, it's okay to dismember it. Samurai Jack's enemies in all of the episodes, they were robots. So he could behead them. He could take their arms and legs off. It's okay. They don't bleed. They're robots. So the Shredder could have had robot Foot Clan soldiers in the sequel, and maybe then Leonardo would be able to use his swords against them because they're robots. It's okay. I don't know why everybody's selective with the violence that way. If it's an alien, oh, fine. Slice him into bits. It's an alien. He bleeds green. That's fine. If they bleed red, that's not good. Make them bleed purple, though? Yeah, you're okay then. It can be PG if they bleed purple. It's not red. It's just... I just don't like the hypocriticalness of that. It's just a little bit, censorship and that type of stuff. I could talk for hours about that, but I don't want to. It's just, it really needed to bring that. It's fine. Okay, Secret of the Ooze is fine. It's just not nearly as good. April O'Neil has been recast. I don't know why. Why did they recast April O'Neil? It doesn't make sense. Is she a good actress? Yes, the recast actress is fine. She comes back for TMNT 3 as well, and she's fine. But the first April, the one for the first movie, Hogue, Mrs. Hogue, Miss Hogue, she's perfect. She was the perfect April. She was... why? Is this scheduling conflicts? Does she want more money? Give it to her! Right? Yeah, no arguments with. Don't bicker about prices. Give it to her and let her come back. Give her what she wanted and have her come back. Wait until her scheduling conflict is no longer in conflict. Have her come back then. It would have been a better movie, in my opinion. And not that I'm saying the new April is wrong or bad or anything like that. It's just very jarring to see the perfect April and then seeing the new April. And of course, Casey Jones is missing. Casey Jones, played expertly by Elias Koteas, probably the best character of the first movie. Literally the best character of the first movie. He's missing. He should have been brought back. And of course, the storytelling with the turtles in the second movie has also been toned down heavily. It's more about them finding out about the ooze, but they're not really learning about each other. They're not really having any family dynamics. Most of the dynamics and character growth between these characters were had in the first movie. Well, admittedly, mainly Leo and Raph. But then again, it's always Leo and Raph, isn't it? It's never Donnie and Mikey. They never get anything, do they? Well, technically, Donnie gets a little bit to do in this one. He's more technologically savvy, so he befriends the scientist man, the ooze-making dude. I forget his name. TGRI or TSRI or whatever the Science-y Institute was. Donnie befriends that man, and they hang out. They get along with all the sciencey crap, and it's okay. I love Donnie gets something to do. Give him something to do. That's great. And Mikey even has a little bit of things to do in the first movie, but here he's kind of just there. Leo's kind of just there. Raph has faded off into the background. Donnie gets a little bit to do, but that's it. Casey is gone. There's this other dude, this new dude, I forget his name. Kobe, whatever the guy's name is. He's this younger dude. I think he was actually one of the martial artists that wore the suit in the first movie. So that's pretty cool to have him in the second movie, but he didn't really have a big enough plot. The second movie is also the shortest one on this set of 4 films. It's the shortest one. It's about 80-something minutes. You could have added about 20 minutes to the runtime. Give that kid more to do. Give him more scenes. Give everybody more scenes. Give some more dynamic and drama between the characters. We need some more of that. Because it's very too kidified. It doesn't take itself seriously. It's funny, admittedly. I love it. It's funny. It's very a lot of the jokes are still funny today. I still enjoy it, but it's just not memorable. The first movie is memorable, especially for pretty much all of it. The farmhouse scenes are fantastic. The Raph on the roof being beat up by the Foot Clan, that's fantastic. Raph meeting Casey Jones, it's everything about that movie is fantastic and memorable. You can remember it years later. The only thing I can remember about TMNT 2, well, the Vanilla Ice scene, I remember that. I remember Shredder shouting babies. I think that's it. It's just doesn't stand out. It's sad to say. Now let's talk about TMNT 3. TMNT3. Oh crap, man. Everybody hates this movie. I don't understand why. Is it the suits? Well, if it's the suits, I agree with you. They don't look nearly as good. Jim Henson did not come back to make the suits, and it shows. They look terrible. But it's a pretty fun story. I love the time travel shenanigans. They brought back Elias Koteas, but there's a lot of problems with this movie. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. There are a lot of problems. It almost feels like they're setting up a sequel that did not happen, or it feels like they're setting up... They had a lot of scenes that were not put into the final cut of the movie, probably because they thought it would be too complicated with all the time travel shenanigans. But hey, trust me, kids are smart. They're very smart. They live to have you underestimate them. Okay? Kids want you to underestimate them. Because when you underestimate them, they can get away with more crap. Trust me. As a former kid, I'm gonna give you that secret right now to any new parents out there. Your kids are smart. They're smarter than you think they are, okay? They're not dumb. They only act dumb so that they can get away with more crap so that you don't pay attention, alright? There you go, I just broke a secret for all the kids out there, whatever. But they're smarter than you give credit for. You don't have to treat them like babies. They're smart enough to get this stuff, okay? The time travel shenanigans, they're smarter than most adults. They'll probably get it easily, easier than the adults did, okay? So, what did I not like about this movie? Well, the suits are not as good. No. The fighting's fun, I like that. There is a scroll, and they go back into the 1600s, Japan. I think the Tokugawa shogunate's falling apart around this time period. Meiji's about to come into restoration. I don't know if it's called the Bakumatsu or whatever, but it's around this time period, right? It's around that area. The English borders, the English have come in, or are they Portuguese? I don't know. They're definitely making a lot of liberties with the history here. It's just a point in time where the borders of Japan have opened and traders are coming in, giving guns to various clans so that the daimyos can war with each other with guns now instead of just swords and bows and arrows and all this other medieval stuff. They're bringing modernity into Japan and all that stuff. It's around this time period that they find this scepter, the turtles, April. She finds this in an antique shop. She brings it over to the turtles, and while she's tinkering with it with the turtles' new location, she gets transported into the past, and so the turtles have to follow her into the past. And it's a matter displacement thing. So any person that goes to the past, a person of the past will be swapped with them and placed into the future. So one of the princes of the daimyo of the past gets sent to the present, and April gets sent to the past. And then 4 of the daimyo's honor guard gets sent to the present, and then 4 turtles get sent to the past. And Elias Koteas comes back as Casey Jones to play babysitter for the prince and the 4 honor guard members. And I swear, like, the last time I watched this movie was like 10 plus years ago, right? And I could have swore I remembered more scenes were filmed with the 4 honor guards and the prince. I remembered, I swear there were more fish out of water scenes filmed with this. Casey had far more things to do. I could have swore there were more scenes with this. I guess I just imagined it. I guess my brain just filled in the blanks of the plot that I wish were there. Because when I watched it again, they weren't there. They were very brief, and I wish there was more in here. I'm going to look in the back here and see how long this movie was. TMNT3 is 95 minutes. It's about as long as the first movie. It is about as long, but it crams far more information in, and it leaves a lot of information out. What does that mean? Well, it means that you needed to include more scenes. More scenes with Casey Jones and the 4 honor guard, funny comedy scenes. I love that. Love the fish out of water stuff. Is very fantastic, very funny. It might not have aged well today, but I don't care. I still find it hilarious. And you needed to add more scenes from the past. In the past, there is this scroll that the daimyo keeps in the same chamber as the time scepter that sent everybody back in time. And on this scroll are 4 turtles. 4 turtle-looking things. They call them kappa, or demons. And they look just like the Ninja Turtles. And the daimyo says that they appeared centuries ago and fought this big, bad, beastie dude. And they saved the day, or ruined the day, depending upon whose perspective you ask. Because maybe the daimyo's ancestor was the guy the turtles beat, maybe. I don't know. And it makes you wonder, did the turtles then later go back to the past, even further back in the past, and find some shredder of the past and defeat him? And that's what I thought happened, but then I realized my memory was just getting muddied up. Because I remembered they went to the Japan past in the 2003 cartoon, and there was a shredder dude there that the turtles fought. And they learned that the shredder was an Utrom. Well, you could look up the Utroms and all that stuff if you like. The 2003 show was crazy. But I remembered the Japan segment from the 2003 series. I watched that a long time ago. Only once on cartoon, on cable. And my memory was just fogging over. I was blending events from the 2003 show into TMNT3. And filling in the blocks of story that they didn't actually put into the TMT3 movie. I was filling in the blanks for them! And unfortunately, we didn't ever get to see the sequence that caused this scroll to be made. I was very curious about the scroll. You know, I wanted to know more about the scroll. I wanted to know why it was made. I wanted to know who made it. Maybe they were teasing a sequel. Maybe in the sequel they used the scepter again, they went further back into the past, and they fought this warlord who was basically the Shredder 1.0. And the Shredder they fought today was Shredder 2.0. Maybe this was the Shredder's ancestor, right? That would have been awesome, you know? That would have been a fun movie, but they didn't make it. So, yeah, there was a lot of unsung or basically just disappointments. But the story that was there was fun. The combat was fun. Leo's using his swords again. That's good. Everybody's using their weapons again. That's fantastic. The second movie, nobody used their weapons, and that was a big point of problemness from me. And now here the third movie is, and everybody's using their weapons again. Why are people upset? This is what you wanted. Their weapons are back, and that's great. Yeah, obviously the fight scenes aren't perfect or anything like that, but at least they're making progress. They took 3 steps backwards with the suits, but they took 1 step forward with bringing the fighting back. So it is what it is with the suits, you know. I wish they would have got Jim Henson to make the suits. It would have been a much better received film, I guess, but I don't know why people don't like 3 all that much. I really enjoyed it. I did. I don't think it's better than 1 and 2. The comedy is just not as good as 1 and 2. It just feels rushed. It feels ambitious, is what it feels like. It's ambitious. And normally when a show is ambitious, it tends to be disappointing at the same time. What does that mean? It means when you can see the ambition on the screen, you can also see that maybe they needed more time. You know, more time to cook on it, more time to work on it, more time to build it. Because it's ambitious. There's a lot of ideas on the screen, there's a lot of passion on the screen, but there just wasn't enough time to make it look as good as they wanted it to look. They've rushed this out, probably. This movie was probably rushed out the door immediately. You know, maybe the 80s show was flagging behind or finishing up, and they just needed to throw this out there now before it was too late, before the IP was dead or whatever, or dying, or dying further or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a historian of the TMNT. All I know is that this film feels rushed, even though it has the ambition and the potential to have been an incredible movie. I love the time travel segments, I love the Japan segments, I love the new characters. We just need to spend more time with them. We need to learn more about them. If you added maybe a half hour to the runtime, maybe that would have been enough time to build character dynamics with all these people. Michelangelo's dynamic with the princess lady of this rebel clan. Maybe we should have had more scenes with that, so that Mikey grows up. Mikey actually has a lot to do with this third movie, and I really appreciate that. It just needed to have more time to build with him. Raph has a lot of stuff to do with the princess lady's, I think it's her kid, Yoshi. He has a lot to do with that. I like that. I wish we saw more of that. Leo and Donnie are kind of just there, though. So it's whatever. It is what it is. Raph and Mikey have stuff to do. That's great. Donnie had a lot to do in the second movie, so that's fine. It's just, I wish it was better because I could see the potential of it being better. That's why I like TMNT 3, because I want it to be better. I see something fantastic in it. I remembered it as something fantastic. Watching it today, well, not necessarily today, but watching it now, it didn't feel as good as I remembered it, because I filled in the blanks of all of the problems I saw with it. My brain filled in all of the blanks and made me remember it fonder as the potential it had to be as good as I remembered it being, rather than as it is now. So yeah, TMNT 3 is an film, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's a very fun movie. It's just not as good as 1 and 2. I'd still say it's better than the Michael Bay films. I'm gonna say that. It's better than those two films.